Today I'm going to be showing you how to use this shoulder rig follow focus. Now when you first bring it out of the kit bag, you will probably find that it is in the shoulder configuration, so that's what I'm going to go ahead and start with. Now when it's stored, sometimes this follow focus is rotated down, so I'm going to loosen this knob here that's on the rail and slide that out of the way so I can easily mount my camera. And then I'm going to take and align the 1/4-20 hole on the bottom of my camera with the 1/4-20 screw that's on the rig. And then I can line it up, and now it does slide forward and back so I can get it in the right position. And you're going to tighten it down. You want to keep a good handle on the camera so that it doesn't fall off. And you're going to tighten it down good and snug. And you might be able to start with one hand to get it on there. And then you're going to tighten it the rest of the way with both hands. And again, making sure that it is straight. Now that is good and snug. I'm almost ready to use it. Next thing I'm going to do is loosen that thumb screw again that's on the rail and position the follow focus so that the gear on the lens matches the gear on the follow focus. And I'll slide that into place, tighten it down. And then you'll also find that there is a joint on the follow focus that allows this to go into the vertical position. So you can go ahead and get that so that it matches up. And now it is engaged with the gear, and when I turn the follow focus, it is changing the focus of my lens. Something else you'll notice that when you first lift this up, you're going to find that a camera like this is going to be quite front heavy, and it might seem like it is dipping down, and it is. So what you want to do is counterbalance the weight of the camera with this weight that goes on the back of the shoulder rig. So you slide this on the back of the rail, tighten down the knobs, make sure they're good and tight so that it doesn't fall off. And now it is going to be more balanced. And it'll feel much easier to maneuver, and then you can also operate the follow focus. You can use the viewfinder, or you can use the pull-out screen. Now you might find that the shoulder pad here is in the wrong position, so you can loosen that and get it so that it is properly balanced and in position for you. The other thing to take note of is on the follow focus ring, there is this white ring that is magnetic. It comes off. But what you can do is, when you're going to be filming, you find your focus position, and then you can make a mark with a dry erase marker on the follow focus. And then if you are going to be doing a rack focus move, you find that place and mark it so that when you're ready to actually start filming, you can easily hit those focus points. And that's kind of the basics, how to prepare this. You do want to make sure that you are good and stable when operating it, but you can get some nice, good, smooth, handheld moves with this follow focus. You'll find that if you are walking with this, you would have the tendency to kind of bob, so you might use a different type of stabilization device for those types of moves. But you can get some very nice handheld footage that is stable and balanced using this shoulder mount follow focus. Now there are other configurations for this rig. What I'm going to do is go ahead and take and put the screen away, and let's say I wanted to mount this on a tripod. I wouldn't want to be mounting this whole thing on the tripod because it would be a little bit heavy, and even this counterbalance weight could actually cause my camera to be dipping backward. So I'm going to actually take the whole thing apart so that I can mount it on the tripod. So first thing I'm going to do is remove the camera, and I'm going to move that follow focus out of the way. And once that's out of the way, then carefully I'm going to loosen the 1/4-20 and remove the camera from the shoulder mount. Once that's off, then I'm going to go ahead and remove this. Now I can actually just remove it from this center point here. And I can leave the weight on for right now because I'm not going to be using that. And then that's going to slide off. Now, if I wanted to, I could also remove these handles, but they're really not going to be getting in the way. Now, you might find that sometimes these knobs get a little bit tight, or you want to tighten them a little bit more. There's an Allen wrench inside the kit that you can use to tighten it down. So now I am going to mount my tripod plate on this, and you're going to find it's going to be easiest if you do mount the tripod plate first on the rig and get that, again, good and snug. You'll find that this follow focus knob is probably going to get in the way when you try to mount it on the tripod. So I'm actually going to loosen it so I can just go ahead and slide it around if it is getting in the way. I'm going to start from the back and slide in, and now I have it locked in position. And that's going to be a lot easier to do than if I had the camera on there. So then I'm going to get that follow focus out of the way, and I'm ready to mount the camera on. And then I would mount it just the same way that I was doing for the shoulder mount. I mount it using the 1/4-20 screw, making sure that it is good and straight. And again, the camera can slide forward and back. So I want to get it in the right position, tighten it down, keep a good hand on the handle on the top of the camera. After it's tight, maybe with 2 hands, tighten it down the rest of the way. And then same thing, I'm going to take and get the follow focus in position, match it, and I am good to go. And you might actually want to keep the handle on there because that might give you a little bit more control. And that's how you can operate this camera using the follow focus on a tripod. You'll find that there are some other things in the kit bag as well. There is this matte box that can be used on the front of the rig. Now, this particular camera has a matte box built into it, but I could remove it and then take this. And this is going to fit right on the rail, so I could loosen this and place it on the rails. And then I could get this into position if I needed to use this matte box. Now, the other thing with this matte box, it does have a slot for a filter. To do the filter, you just loosen this little knob, and then you can pull out the filter holder. This particular camera has a built-in ND filter, so it wouldn't be necessary to do this. But if you needed an ND filter for your camera, and you wanted to be using the follow focus, then you can get an ND filter like this, and you're going to place it into the slot. There's a little button here that'll allow you to loosen it and get it into position, and then the ND filter is there, and then you're going to place it right in that little slot that you took it out of earlier, and then lock it down so that it's in position. And that's how you could use this. And you can tighten and loosen these with the knobs that you find here, so you can get those in the exact position that you want if you needed to use this. Keep in mind that the more you add to this, if this were in the shoulder mount position, it's going to get heavier and heavier. So you would definitely need to counterbalance it. But that's how you could use this matte box with it, the follow focus. Now, if there's a big gap between your camera lens and the matte box, then you would want to use this, and this would lock onto the back of the matte box and onto the front of the lens. But keep in mind that you don't want to cause any stress to the front of the lens. So I wouldn't do that with something like this little kit lens. And also on a DSLR like this, when it's focusing, the distance is changing on the lens. So that would cause a lot of stress to your lens. But that's how you could use the matte box. The other thing to take note of with the matte box is if your front lens element is moving and you have an ND filter in there, you want to make sure that it is not hitting that ND filter. But that's the basics for the matte box with this particular rig. So you can also mount a DSLR on this shoulder rig follow focus. You can mount it directly to the plate here, or you can use this magnifying viewfinder. And I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now the viewfinder has a tripod plate on the bottom of it that matches up magnetically, and it holds it in place. And then you're going to just line up that 1/4-20 screw and tighten it down. Get it good and snug up against the screen. Now, if it doesn't align left or right or up and down, there is an Allen wrench in the kit, so you can loosen it and then slide it to get it into the right position and then tighten it down. And then this viewfinder, press the button and then you can use it as a sunshade, or again, you can use it as a magnifier. And you could even just shoot with it like this and then adjust your focus. But we want to mount it here so we can use the follow focus. So I'm going to get this follow focus out of the way so I've got plenty of space to work. And then I'm going to line it up on the tripod plate with the 1/4-20 here. Screw that on good and snug. And going to probably have to move it forward so it's toward the front. And get it on there. Now you're going to notice right away that this does not match the lens. So the way this follow focus is designed is I can switch where that gear is, and I can move it from the front to the back. So there's a little knob here that I can unscrew, and then I can pull off the focus gear and put it toward the back. And then tighten it down. Now it's going to align a little bit better. But the other thing you'll notice that this is not a cinema lens, so it does not have gearing on it. But I can place this gear on here, and it has this little locking mechanism. And I have it already sized. And I can put it on my lens. And I do want to make sure that I have the full range of my focus when I have placed it on the lens. So do make sure that there's no friction and that it is in place, and also that this extra bit isn't going to get in the way. So you might need to make some adjustments to it so that it is in the right position and isn't getting in the way of the focus mechanism. So once that's on and it's in the right place, I can see that it is engaged with it. It's nice and straight on there. Then what I can do is I can bring this follow focus into position, bring it into place, and then now I have the follow focus on this lens. And this is a prime lens, and the focus, when it's changing, it is not changing the distance of the front of the lens. So you notice that front lens element moves back and forth, but it's not being bothered at all by that gear mechanism. You're going to find that if you're using something like a kit lens, like this one, when I focus, that manual focus ring is moving forward and back. And then if I were to zoom, that would also be changing it. So with this gear, if you are using a kit lens, you got a little bit of play, but not a lot. So it is a bit more of a challenge when using the follow focus with something like this kit lens, that the front lens element is moving forward and back while you focus it. Versus something like this lens, when you focus it, it is not changing the distance of the gear itself. And that is how you can use this shoulder mount follow focus And again, if I want to, I could mount it on a tripod. This camera is so light that I wouldn't need to add the weight to the back. If I did, it would probably be too heavy in the back. Well, that's the basics on how you can use this shoulder rig with the follow focus. You don't have to use the follow focus. You could mount other cameras on here. You could mount a GoPro, or you could mount even a cell phone. As long as you have a 1/4-20 screw hole in the bottom, then you can use it. And you can use it to get good camera moves. And the reason we would do those camera moves is because we are telling a story. So all of our camera moves must be motivated. That is, there has to be a reason in the story why we're doing them. And there's a reason why we might use handheld versus a tripod. And there's a reason we might, for the story, be using something like rack focus. Well, I hope that helps, and I hope you can continue to tell good stories.